One of the hardest things about the FPV hobby is keeping up with all the new stuff that comes out. And I say that not just as a member of the FPV hobby, but also as a content creator. It's impossible to make an individual review video about every single awesome, cool, new, interesting product that's out there. And that is why me and my co-host, it's Blunty. How you doing, Blunty?
Good, Joshua. How's it going?
I'm doing really good. That is why we sit down every month to run through the hot new products that have come out, keep you up to date, give you our off-the-cuff thoughts about them. And yes, at the end of the video, we're going to give away one of these products to usually 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6, depending on how expensive it is. We're going to give away one of these products at the end of the video. So stick around or fast forward to the end if you really want, if you're like a loser or whatever. But let's get started, Blunty. Let's get right into it. What is the first product we're going to look at this month?
Well, let's go check out the Fat Shark Scout HD PVT goggles that they've released. This is a new Shark Bite integrated goggles from Fat Shark that they've been promising for a while. These are the box style version, and they're out now. They're actually in stock. You get FPV as we're recording this.
Amazing. So they're actually in stock. Now, this is not the Fat Shark Scout goggle that we all may know and some of us love. That's an analog goggle. This has digital Shark Bite built in.
Yeah, and it is digital only, but yes, it is digital Shark Bite built in. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you have been looking to get into Shark Bite, but maybe you didn't have goggles that would work for you, or you didn't have a Shark Bite module, or if you've gotten into Shark Bite but you're looking to upgrade your goggles, this is a 1080p screen, right? It's a single screen, 1080p resolution though. That's pretty good. That's probably more than a lot of people have on their analog goggles.
Yeah, early reports from these seem to be pretty positive from people, and I know they're working with people pretty actively to make sure their experience is good with these goggles. So, yeah, it seems pretty solid. It's definitely nice to see this integrated solution. Fat Shark's been promising stuff like this for a while, and it seems like they're starting to deliver on that. So.
Unfortunate that it doesn't have an analog receiver built in, so it will not be your only goggle if you still fly analog. And unfortunate, it also doesn't have HDMI out, which is a feature they said they were going to put in. But we have to point out that that's what the PVT in the name means.
I believe the HDMI out will be in the later, more premium goggle. Like that was what the discussion was for, because they're talking about making a more premium integrated goggle. And I think in that goggle will be like the HDMI out that they were discussing before.
Yeah, the PVT, it's like explicitly a sort of a beta test. And that also explains the price, because you and I guessed what we thought the price of these goggles should be. And we guessed around $300 to $350. But we also thought, $250 is what a Shark Bite receiver module alone will cost you today, not counting the goggles. So this is clearly lower than their final retail price is going to be. And as a result, it's just they're just trying to get feedbacks, and it may not be fully feature complete.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see, and a good way to hop on the train, I think, if you're trying to get on the Shark Bite train. So,
well, I actually just ordered these, and I got them in the mail just yesterday, actually. So I haven't had a chance to try them yet, but I'm looking forward to putting a review out. Shark Bite also, Divimath has been doing a big push with new camera that they're releasing. Divimath is releasing the camera in partnership with RunCam, completely separate from Fat Shark. So it looks like they are doing a big push to try and bring Shark Bite up to a level of image quality. And there's a new 1-watt VTX that there are rumors that they're working on. So quality and range to kind of make it compete, at least with analog, if not with DJI. So the product that I want to sort of bump to the front of the line this month, Blunty, is this one. This is the iFlight FPV Drone Backpack. And the reason, I'm going to be just completely straight with you. The reason I'm so excited about this is for 2 to 3 years, I'd have to look to see when I bought it, I've had the Torvol Pitstop Pro as my daily driver. And I've tried other backpacks. Some had pros, some had cons, but ultimately that's the one I've always come back to. And it is extremely clear that iFlight just, I'm not going to use the C word. They took a lot of inspiration from the iFlight bag. This is basically exactly like the iFlight bag, except They fixed like the 3 things that annoyed me about the iFlight bag.
You mean the Torval bag, right?
I'm sorry, the Torval bag. Thank you. They fixed like iFlight fixed like the 3 things that annoyed me about the Torval bag. The 3 things that I say 3 things. I'm not actually sure the number, but the 3 things they changed. Number 1 is they added more straps across the back. The Torval bag only has 2 straps, one at the top and one at the bottom, which means that, well, you need a middle strap. So I've always wished that Torval would add a 3rd strap. They also redid the inside. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of it to make a little better use of this. Well, I can't find a picture of it, but the front cover here on the inside has some more pouches, but they kept all the other layout and stuff that I really like, including the way the side pouches are done is really smart. So I've got this, and I just transitioned my stuff into it yesterday, and I'm going to be giving it a try. I think the big question is the durability. You don't know who iFlight has making this and how it's going to hold up over the years.
Yeah, I think that's 100% going to be the major factor. I think a lot of these bags, for their other pros and cons, are usable, but then you find out that after a couple months you have issues with them. So yeah, hopefully this one will hold up, and it's built well.
In case you missed it, there are links in the video description to all of the products that we are going to be looking at. There are also chapter breaks down in the timeline. So if you want to look for a particular product or just skip ahead to see what you might find interesting, that's going to make it easy for you. I do want to let you know those links are affiliate links. It takes a lot of work, a lot of prep, and a lot of research for us to put videos like this together. And if a simple way that you can support the channel is to just click those affiliate links before you make any purchase from an affiliated vendor. Whether you're buying the item we're talking about or any purchase, just click the affiliate link, fill up your cart, check out, get a small commission. Easy way for you to support the channel. Let's move on, Blunty. Where should we go next?
So I think we'll move to the ExpressLRS hardware. We've got some new ExpressLRS hardware. It seems to be the norm these days.
Yeah.
So the first one we'll take a look at is the Happymodel and the new Iron Man, quote unquote, I'm sure they can't say that, but the Iron Man module, clearly inspired. And this is a slim module. So this slim module is specifically for like something like the Tango 2, so that you can just snap it right in there.
Now, this was a little confusing to me at first, Blunty, because Happymodel put out a Lite module previously that looks just like this, but that was specifically for the Jumper T Lite. It didn't have the actual pins that let it plug in to like an X Lite or a Tango 2. So that's what's different about this, right?
Yeah, the T Lite was like you cut a hole in the back of the T Lite, and then you put this little power adapter board in, and then it plugged in with a little JST style connector. This is actually like standard slim JR style plug. So.
And this one doesn't. I'm just looking at the product picture here. Doesn't seem to come with the T Lite specific stuff. So it doesn't have the plugger. So you would not buy this one if you have a T Lite. There's a different one specifically for the T Lite.
Correct. Yep. This is going to be for your other slim module style, and specifically for the Tango 2. I think is why they designed these, because a lot of people were asking for them.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that TBS is just fine with people running ExpressLRS on the back of their Tango 2. Sure, that's fine. All right, we got some other ExpressLRS products here. Blunty, what's the next one?
We've got another Nano TX module, very similar to the Happymodel option there. Is this BetaFPV Nano TX version, same 2.4, similar style, plugs into a JR Slim bay, just the same. So just another option for you. Looks like this one actually goes up to 500 milliwatt power. Your Happymodel module is only going to go up to 250, I do believe. But otherwise, they should be very similar in features. So.
Well, I've got a couple differentiating factors here that I know of. One of them is that according to Wesley Vardy, the BetaFPV module is missing a capacitor that's specified by the reference design. And the effect of this is that some, not all, but some modules will refuse to update firmware unless you open the module up and push a button that's not accessible from the outside. BetaFPV is aware of this and will be fixing it in future releases, but at least today you might run into that.
Yeah, and then from what I'm hearing, it's very few people. I've talked to like 10 people or so that I think are running this, and 2 people have seen this. So,
so 20%? roughly?
Yeah, of just like a random sampling that I had. But like a lot of people were like, "What's wrong? I flashed mine, no problem." So
Yeah.
it is hopefully not as prevalent. But yeah, they're fixing this in future revisions. So hopefully
Eh,
you'll get one of those, or you might want to wait just a little while or make sure that, like, for instance, we're looking at PyroDrone here, and they're out of stock. So hopefully when they restock, it'll be with the fixed version of the module.
And if you do get one of those modules, Wesley Vardy, we'll put a link to his video down in the video description. There's a place where you can solder a little capacitor and fix it yourself, although most people would not want to go through that. The Happymodel ones, I have heard from a bunch of people that Happymodel is making these 2.4 gig antennas by just cutting down 900 megahertz antennas. And I got a picture from somebody the other day. He had pulled the end cap off, and the length of the wire was way off. They had just done a really shoddy job of cutting it to the correct length. And so people getting the Happymodel modules, some of them are getting antennas that are way, way, way off from what they should be. So that's the downside of the Happymodel.
I've seen a lot of them cut like that. So I don't know if that was like a whole batch they did wrong, or yeah, I don't know. Have we confirmed that's actually a problem? Maybe they've like cut it like for that length for a reason. Maybe there's like an internal, like a RF thing, or like the way the route's done, or like the there's different ways you can.
You're right. Antenna design doesn't always work like just a lay person would think it was. So maybe it's intentional. I do know that
I've just seen multiple ones cut like that exact same way you're talking about, where like one side's shorter and it looks like totally wrong. I've seen multiple people using those, like, and it doesn't seem to cause an issue, and they're all cut the same way. That's what makes you think they're either like totally confused about it, or they like cut them like that for some reason. Yeah, for some reason they understand. So
all I know is I was doing a range test, not a range test, but I was playing around with the range of the ceramic antenna, and I wasn't getting the RSSI that Alessandro thought the lead ExpressLRS dev. I wasn't getting the RSSI that he thought I should be getting. And he said, well, maybe you could try a different antenna, because sometimes the Happymodel antennas are a little flaky. So that was what sort of made me think, oh, maybe this is a mistake. I guess if you're saying there's a ton of them cut that way, maybe it's on purpose. Of course, that doesn't mean that it's not a mistake. But
gotcha. Yeah, when I saw the first one, I thought it looked really weird. And then I just saw multiples cut like the exact same, like off dimension. And it made me wonder if there was a reason for that. So.
We would really need somebody to put it on like an antenna analyzer to know for sure. All right. So between these two, which would you take today if you had to put down your own money, Blunty?
Probably the BetaFPV module. I mean, I bet they're both, I don't know. The BetaFPV should have a better power amp on it, or whatever it's called. So it should get you more power if you need that. Most of the time you won't with ExpressLRS, but it's nice to have the option. They're very similar in price, and hopefully they'll have taken care of that issue on the board. So I would probably lean that direction.
Yeah, I think so too. That 500 milliwatts is going to be nice. The build quality looks pretty nice. BetaFPV build quality, of course, is always a little hit or miss, but hopefully the reference design from ExpressLRS means that this will be a good product. We got one more product here that I am super excited about. I'm super excited to see manufacturers integrating ExpressLRS into flight controllers. And we got another flight controller coming later that is just a regular full-size flight controller with an ExpressLRS receiver on it. But this is a bind and fly quad from BetaFPV with the ExpressLRS 2.4 gig receiver built right into the flight controller. That's pretty slick. Well, what do you think of this one, Blunty?
Yeah, this is really cool. Just one note, I believe this is the BetaFPV board that specifically doesn't use SPI. So this is sort of like buying a receiver that's like integrated into the board instead of buying an SPI solution like the Happymodel board. So when you flash it like a normal Happymodel or a normal ExpressLRS receiver. Instead of like SPI, it's not controlled through Betaflight, all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, yeah, totally integrated. It's really nice to see these on bind and flies. And hopefully we'll see a lot more integration, especially because of these boards. So.
Now, I think you're talking about the Happymodel Whoop flight controller that has a built-in ExpressLRS receiver. And you're saying that the Happymodel is SPI, this one is not. I'm a little unclear on which of those is a good and which is a bad thing. What are the which one do I want?
Be lower. Well, SPI should be lower latency, as far as I know, because it does interrupt on the MCU. I believe that's the implementation they're using. So that means you lose the UART latency, which is like a millisecond, a millisecond and a half, or something like that.
Okay.
Or maybe even less than that. And then, but other than that, and then BetaFlight on the SPI receivers controls the SPI stuff. So if you want to change like packet rate or anything like that, you need to do that through BetaFlight.
So you're going to go
in the CLI.
I see.
With this board, I believe, and with any of the ones with the integrated receiver that's not SPI, you'll actually flash, configure, and set up. Yeah, you'll actually set it up over a UART. It'll be configured just like a normal receiver, and then you'll control it with the Lua on the radio, as opposed to the changes you would have to make in the BetaFlight CLI.
So it feels to me like I would probably want the UART-based receiver just because it would give me a consistent experience with all my other ExpressLRS receivers in terms of flashing and configuring. Whereas with the SPI-based receiver, I have to do it in BetaFlight CLI, which, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but what about firmware updates? How do you update firmware on the SPI-based receiver?
You have to specifically have the build of BetaFlight, and that's how it's handled, I believe, is all through the build of BetaFlight. So it's all custom builds that are done for it.
That sounds like a real downside, given how often ExpressLRS is updating these days. Like, one of the advantages of an open source project like this is that it's like fast moving and they're constantly coming out with new features and improvements, and you can just keep right up with them as much as you want to. But if you have to download a custom build of BetaFlight for every one, that seems like it might be a little annoying.
Yeah, I do believe that's the current setup of how it works. So hopefully, maybe there'll be better solutions to that. But yeah, if there's a major update, which they're talking about changes in maybe like switch handling and stuff for ExpressLRS. So when they do eventually do a major update to maybe like 1.1 and the binding breaks between, it'll be nice to be able to update on something like this separately. So.
Okay. All right. So that is the beta. As far as the quad goes, I loved the HX115 that I flew, but the HX115 that I flew was more of a toothpick style build with sort of a camera on top of the flight controller and a vertical stack. This looks more like, a Tiny-Hawk freestyle mini micro quadcopter build. So who knows how it's going to fly, but it's certainly going to have good range. That's for sure. Well, that sounds like a great opportunity to transition over to talking about bind and fly quads. New bind and fly quads that have come out this week. I think one of the most exciting ones has got to be the EMAX. Well, anytime EMAX makes a new bind and fly, I'm excited. The EMAX Nanohawk X. What do you think of this one, Blenty?
Yeah, this seems to be EMAX's finally like their intro into the baby hawk area. You know, they've kind of stepped around there before. And then we saw NewBeeDrone enter with the Savage B. And so it seems like we're finally getting EMAX's intro into that. And I know EMAX works pretty closely with Kebab typically, so I'm sure a lot of those design inspirations are there. This seems like a solid little quad. This obviously just came out a few hours ago, so we haven't had too much time to process it, but 140 with something in stock everywhere in this economy.
Yeah, it is. It would just literally came out this morning, so it's currently in stock. So I flew a toothpick that Kebab himself built. He sent it to me and said, "Hey, do you want to try it?" And of course, how do you say no to that? And I was so impressed with how good a performance you could get off 1S. It is just clearly engineered to an incredible degree. And it was so fun to fly. Obviously, you're not going to get the same performance as like a 6S 5-inch quad. That's not the point. But compared to like a Tiny Whoop, it was so good for outdoor flying and fun. But not everybody wants to build one of those themselves. And there isn't currently a way to get an FPV Cycle toothpick pre-made. So with EMAX throwing their hat in the ring, I think this is going to make the enjoyment of this type of 1S toothpick way more accessible to people who don't want to DIY. And I'm going to bet it flies great just because EMAX usually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think the biggest downside that most people are going to see here is going to be the unfortunate, it's just D8. So the only option I see is FrSky D8.
For the receiver.
You might be range limited on that. The 200 milliwatt VTX seems pretty reasonable. But unfortunately, I think that D8 is going to be a limiting factor on this guy.
That is really disappointing. I mean, you probably could put a Crossfire receiver on it. I mean, they're probably with the Tiny-Hawk Freestyle, the pads are there for you to put an ExpressLRS or a Crossfire receiver on it. I guess it's not the end of the world. It is a little disappointing. Like, I could, but I mean, like, what else would they do? Would they ship it with Crossfire? It's not going to have a built-in Crossfire.
Yeah, or maybe, yeah, I don't know. I guess they don't have an option because they want to use all their stuff because it's EMAX, but it'd be nice to see ExpressLRS or something. You know, those EPs are so small.
It's true.
It's so light.
That'd be the first thing I'd do is I'd pull the D8 antenna off it. I'd find some solder pads and I'd put a little Happymodel EP2 ceramic antenna receiver on it. And then I'd have range for days.
Yeah, I'm trying to confirm that this board, because this is the Nanohawk board, I'm not 100% sure it has a free UART.
Please let it have a free UART. Please.
I can't quite find a map on it.
While you're looking for that, when I flew Kebab's toothpick, it had a Crossfire receiver and it had a Unified Nano, which is 400 milliwatts. And so I really never felt limited by the range of either the video or the control link. And for a tiny quad like that, it was really liberating. Because usually you're just like, you're constantly on the edge of fail-safing with like a tiny whoop. 200 milliwatts I'd rather have 4, but 2 is acceptable. But the range on that D8 receiver is really going to hamper your fun, I think.
And the other one, and I only see an S-Bus pad.
Oh, really disappointing.
Yeah, there's like a split out S-Bus pad. So you could add like Crossfire in S-Bus, like with S-Bus mapping. But you couldn't add ExpressLRS right now.
That's a feature that I kind of wish ExpressLRS would add, and it couldn't be that. Come on, ExpressLRS, how hard could it be? Right? Just code. Just whip it out before breakfast. The ability to output even though S-Bus is a higher latency protocol for these tiny flight controllers that just can't handle Crossfire, it is nice. Anyway, all right. Nanohawk X, we'll keep our eye on that and check out reviews from guys like Nick Burns and see what they have to say.
Whip it out before breakfast. Really got me. So next up, we're going to take a look. DarwinFPV has released, basically, I think I'm going to use the C word on this one, clone of the Dave C FPV 1S Nano long range build. And this is basically the same exact thing built by DarwinFPV, as far as I can tell. Snap-in lithium-ion battery and all. So,
yeah, this is clearly Dave's design. I mean, Dave publishes his STL files. They could have. Well, I don't have them side by side to know, but they could have very well just taken his exact file. This looks like a resin print, doesn't it? It doesn't look like FDM, but it looks like a 3D print to me.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a resin print maybe, or some kind of other, so I'm not sure exactly how they would be doing it. I do think this is a little different because the LiPo slot is integrated into the print. I don't remember if it was like that on the one I printed. I think you like added an extra slot, but otherwise, yeah, the same design and layout styles.
Yeah. So the big question then is going to be, like the Dave C one, I know the durability was, I know it's not advertised for that, but like I had a fairly mild crash. And of course it broke. So it was never really designed for durability. The big question is going to be how this stacks up in terms of flight performance and then durability. You heard anything?
Yeah, not too much yet. I don't know really anybody flying this yet. So I would definitely compare pricing and availability to the Dave C Nano long range options.
So it looks like the Darwin one, that's not carbon. Like, that's not carbon. So no. It's got this like triangle bracing here, which if it was carbon, I'd say that's going to be stronger than the way Dave C does it, but it's not carbon. So we really don't know the strength of the material. It could be stronger based on the fact that it's got the triangle bracing. As far as motors go.
Yeah, the original STL does also have that.
Interesting.
That cross bracing on the print, but he did not do that on the carbon. I assume that was on purpose.
Yeah, weight reasons or something. Yeah. Darwin has gone with 1103, 12,000 kV. Dave has 1202.5. So Dave has significantly bigger motors. Well, 1202.5, that's almost 1203. But Dave's motors are bigger. Same kV. The Reckon 3 was underpowered. I mean, again, it's not designed to be a powerhouse, but I certainly am skeptical of any attempt to make the motors smaller. How about the VTX? 400 milliwatts, that's the same as the Recon. Caddx Ant camera, that's pretty decent camera. How's the pricing? 129 versus 149. That's a tough one. Is the Dave C worth $20 more? That's probably...
I'm going to say yes, because of the print. Like, that's like the thing that is definitely holding me back right now is just the durability of the print. I mean, it's not really made for crashing anyway, but I bet you the noise profile just in general is going to be better on the Carbon. But
yeah, interesting.
I definitely have not flown both. So.
Yeah, arguably the Carbon could be more durable, although none of them are probably very durable. So it'll be interesting to check out some flight tests of these and see the effect of the smaller motors on the Darwin FPV and the effect on durability of whatever frame material they're using. If that's injection molded plastic, it could be fairly durable. If it's resin print, who knows? But for $20 cheaper and in stock, it is in stock. It might be worth checking out for people who are looking for this type of build. Well, I got another little 1S quadcopter, and this one doesn't take an 18650, takes a 1S, like a Cinewhoop battery, but that ain't a Cinewhoop, is it, Blenty?
No, definitely not. Though, yeah, they're definitely trying to get it down to that size. It seems like 26 grams.
That's almost the weight of a Cinewhoop.
Yeah, it's pretty small. There's running 35 millimeter propellers even, so yeah, it's getting way down there. I think we'd seen like, you remember back a long time ago, there was, I think it's the Tiny Fish. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very similar to this like idea. Yeah, I don't know. It's a neat little quad. I'm not sure exactly who this is for though.
It's for bot grinder. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. It seems like he really just gets into any sort of weird quad you want to send him. He'll like fly it and find a way to have a good time with it. And I look at this and I go, what's the point? It's not a Cinewhoop. Well, I guess that could be. It's probably going to fly better than a Cinewhoop. It's got 0802 motors. How is that going to compare? What do they typically use? Is that Cinewhoop
that's about right. Yep, 0802, like 19,000 to 25,000 kV on the Mob 6 race.
Yeah,
is what you have. So yeah.
So this guy is 20,000 kV, 0802. So it's basically got high-end Cinewhoop motors. It's heavier than a Cinewhoop, so it's going to hurt the battery more. But it's going to fly better because it doesn't have those prop guards and it has open props. It's going to fly more like a little freestyle quad.
Yeah, I bet this thing rips. Like, I definitely bet it rips around pretty hard. I mean, you can rip a Cinewhoop pretty hard just in general. So I bet it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm just not, again, I'm not 100% sure of the market for this, but I'll be interested to know. If you're one of the people who would buy something like this, let us know in the comments.
Oh, very good. Here's who I think it's for. The guys who rip a Cinewhoop, who like do indoor freestyle with a Cinewhoop, those guys, it feels like they're gonna like this even better because like you really have to fly around a Cinewhoop's flight characteristics when you do freestyle, in my opinion. Sure. And this is probably going to be just a little bit less holding you back. I feel like you're definitely going to want the highest end batteries that you can get, like because a cheap 450 milliamp hour, 350 milliamp hour 1S is just going to sag out. What do you think is the best Cinewhoop battery people could put on this today, Blenty?
I think we've talked about in a previous episode the Tattoo 1S 300s. I think those or any of the other like solid style that we're seeing come out. The first ones we saw were the NewBeeDrone Nitro Nectar Golds.
Yeah, that's it. NewBeeDrone Nitro Nectar Gold, Tattoo, the solid style instead of the little folded style. I mean, I would rather have a 350 or a 400, to be honest with you. It feels like this thing is going to need it, but this is like the minimum I would start with.
And that molded, it's got like that weird molded thing on top, and I wonder if they will fit anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Let's get this one out of the way. This is a new Cinewhoop. A new tiny whoop. We had a new thing that wasn't a tiny whoop. Now we have a new tiny whoop from NewBeeDrone, the NewBeeDrone Acro B65 brushless B-Brain V3. Let's see how this stacks up.
This has solved a couple of my problems, but not all of them. And it has a couple caveats that I think we should list. The B-Brain Brushless V3 basically is what this is. They've decided to go with Acro B65 instead. But this is basically the B-Brain Brushless V3. Same kind of vein. This one has a SPI receiver. However, it's not using their generic or their their custom SPI solution that they were doing before. This is actually using a proper CC2500, so that's a good change that I have definitely requested before. So you should be able to run something like Red Pine or whatever other thing you would want to use on a normal SPI. There's also like removable antennas and stuff, and they did increase the VTX to 120 milliwatts. However, I think the issue here is that there is no 25 milliwatt setting on this VTX. I'm not sure how that was missed.
It's 125 milliwatts only.
Well, it's 5, 50, or 125, or 120 rather. So that means that for races, you would have to run at 5 because you're not allowed to run at 50.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I would just run at 50 and they'd be like, hey, are you at 25? And I'd be like, and then hopefully they wouldn't check.
Yeah, for any big events, we're always checked. They always check us. So.
That's why I'll never put my VTX channel and output power in my OSD. And I mean, I'm just going to fess up. If I'm at a race and I'm having video problems, like in the back corner, I'm losing video and I'm like trying to qualify, I'm just going to bump it up to 50, bump it up to 100, and I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm sorry. I know that's bad.
Right. Other people, don't be like JB.
Yeah, that's a big oversight, though. How are you going to race? They're all about whoop racing. How are you going to race without a 25 milliwatt option?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Hopefully, your local racing area will let you race on 50, or there'll be some kind of exception for this because you don't have a 25 milliwatt setting. Or hopefully you can get away with 5, though I think in a lot of these environments I fly, any power you can get is a definite improvement, especially when everybody else around you is going to be flying 25. There's all that multipathing in a lot of these whoop environments. Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. Well, the only complaint I would have, I feel like you've really got it, is I would love to see it with a better receiver, like an ExpressLRS receiver. And the reason we keep coming back to this, I mean, I'd love to see it with a Crossfire receiver, but because ExpressLRS is open source, it is a lot easier for manufacturers to put that hardware on their flight controller or on their quad without having to sort of jump through hoops. And that's why we keep coming back to that. Go ahead, Blunty. You had one more thing you wanted to say.
Yep, just the other major complaint I have about these whoops is they don't use the typical OSD. They use B-Sign OSD, which is a custom OSD solution that takes up the first UART. It also causes weirdness because we know the first UART is strange when you do DFU. So you have to power this board if you do DFU, if you mess up and do something with the first UART wrong. It's like very weird issues and it can cause strangeness. I'd like to see a standard OSD chip in the future. But for some reason or other, we did not see that here in this. So, do
we know why NewBeeDrone has... This isn't the first time they've done this weird OSD solution. Why aren't they just using a MAX chip like everybody else?
I would expect price, but I really don't have any clue or understanding as to why they do this. Proprietary stuff is typically done proprietary-wise for proprietary reasons. I guess you're leading me to one other thing, which is this is still using NewBeeDrone is whoop connector thing, so it doesn't fit with other whoop motors. So like these whoop connectors are different size. So if you buy NewBeeDrone's motors, you have to use their whoop boards and vice versa. Tiny Whoop and other motors like Happymodel and such all use a standard connector. NewBeeDrone does not.
Is the NewBeeDrone connector at least better?
I have not seen any tests showing that, or that there are limits on the motors like that, but I'm not sure.
All righty. Well, $140 these days for a bind and fly tiny whoop, brushless tiny whoop. Obviously, a year ago we would have been like, that's too much money. But these days, that's practically a bargain. And if you don't like it, then we'll see you next year when the chip shortage has stopped, hopefully. And prices will definitely come right back down as soon as the chip shortage releases.
Yeah, totally.
All right, moving on.
All right, so from smaller stuff, we'll move up to the bigger stuff. And we'll check out the Ummagawd bind and fly version of the 2FIDDY. Finally, we have a buy and fly solution available at your favorite retailer, hopefully, for your Ummagawd BNF 250. So a little steep in price, like we talked about. This is kind of the world we live in now, but
I have been really on the fence about this one, Blunty, whether the sub 250 gram 5-inch even makes sense. I don't think we need to rehash that argument, but I've actually going to put my money where my mouth is. I bought all the parts to build a 250 from Tommy. They came this week. Obviously haven't put it together yet, and I'm looking forward to finding out if he has finally cracked that nut of making sub 250 gram 5-inch makes sense. It is nice also to see people having other options for buying a bind and fly. You know, oftentimes this stuff is sold mostly at his site, ummagawd.com. I don't even think, does he sell a bind and fly version of this?
I think he's got one listed for pre-order, but I'm not sure. That may be based on sourcing of some of the parts he has listed. So,
yeah, when I asked to buy a kit from him, he said he didn't have the Vistas, but he had all the other parts available. Yeah, so he's got a pre-order for the bind and fly, but this one is fully ready to go with what camera? Caddx Vista Air Unit. Is it Caddx Nebula Pro camera? Okay, so Nebula Pro is actually, that's great. If it actually legit has a Nebula Pro, that is fantastic.
Some people seems odd that he was able to find Nebula Pros to throw in these, but hey, can't complain if that's the case.
I have no idea. That does look like a Nebula Pro, though, doesn't it? Looks like it needs some more up tilt. But anyway, if you're looking to try this one out and you don't want to build it yourself, $520 is actually probably a pretty fair price given the price of the parts that are going into it. And then, of course, this is the labor.
This is I believe this is the 4S version, just so you know as well. So.
Oh, that's not the end of the world. I'm pretty sure Tommy, yeah, you're right, 2400 kV. I'm pretty sure Tommy flies the 6S version, but there you go. And look for a review of a build video and review of the 250 coming up on my channel in probably the next month at the latest, maybe sooner. We got one more for continuing that trend of going from little to big, and that is the Chimera7. Bind and fly 7-inch from iFlight. iFlight makes good bind and flies, so probably a pretty good deal. I haven't flown this one. I don't do a lot of flying of 7 inches at all, Blunty. What about you?
I have never flown a 7-inch. So.
Oh, well. 2806.5 motors. That is what the 7-inch guys say is the motor to get. XING motors usually very, very good. 800 milliwatt VTX.
Have you used this camera? I'm not familiar with the camera. Race cam.
Is that a iFlight thing?
Yeah, iFlight Race Cam Micro.
No, don't know it at all. Surely it's like a Caddx or something, right? I don't think
I would assume so. Yeah, I'm just not familiar with that camera.
Interesting. Here's an Albert Kim review of it. If you want to check that, it's the Race Cam R1. I think it must be maybe it's the same camera. Would like to see a higher, especially for a 7-inch long range, 800 milliwatts. It'd be nice if it was 1 watt or even a little higher, like the Rush Tank Solo. 800 milliwatts is acceptable if it's a good quality VTX. They've also got the front end pushed way out, I guess, to get it free of the props. But I can't help but think that's going to be interesting in a crash. You're not supposed to crash a 7-inch.
Kind of reminds me of I think it's the Mr. Croc that does that, where it's like the front's kind of down and out.
Yeah. And we could certainly speculate about resonance characteristics with these long plates, whether there's going to be vibration issues. That would be something I'd want to check out before I committed to it. But as far as the specs go and the price, of course, is impossible to judge in this day and age where prices are sort of all over the place. The specs look pretty good.
Next, we'll go into frames, and I think we should take a look at the Chris Rosser's new frame, the AOS 5.5.
Because I think all of us could use an extra half-inch of frame.
Frame.
There's always room for a dick joke. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Blunty. Tell us about this one.
So I think the major idea here is, hey, the AOS 5 is a great frame. It's nice and and quality for the weight, and you're not going to have any resonance and all this great stuff. But maybe you want to carry a heavier action cam. And so based on Chris Rosser's prop theory that we've talked about a little before on the news and such, he has some videos about that. He recommends to step your prop up to a 5.5 when you're carrying a GoPro 8 or 9, Hero 8 or Hero 9. And so that's kind of the goal of this frame, is to be his option for that if you're wanting to carry one of those heavier cameras.
Yeah, and some people have been asking for this because I'm not sure how tight the AOS 5 is, but there's props out there that are like 5.1 inch, and most 5-inch frames will handle that. But now you're getting up to these new gem fans, which are 5.25 inches, and I'm not sure whether the AOS 5 can handle those, but even if it can, getting the prop that close to your top-mounted battery or your GoPro could be a little problematic. So even if you don't plan to fly the 5.5-inch props, there may still be some compelling reasons to fly, the AOS 5.5 just to give you a little more room on your build.
Yeah, it looks like you're adding about 10 grams by going the extra half-inch there, so not too bad on the weight difference. Yeah, definitely a solid option. And then also maybe we should mention he's also got the AOS 3.5, and that's also a new release. And the same idea, same family here, just going down in size instead of up. We've got the AOS 3.5.
Yeah, and I am on record as saying that 3.5 inch is the ideal prop size for a sub 250 freestyle rig. I don't know will this frame get under 250 grams?
Yes, that's the goal, is 100% to get right under 250 with this frame. So.
Yeah, if you need to get under 250 grams, like you live in Canada and there's a weight restriction, or if you're in the USA and you don't want to register your quad, and you like to fly freestyle, 3.5 inches, you can build a 4-inch and a 5-inch under 250 grams, but you give up too much in terms of motor performance, in terms of durability. 3.5 inches is the place to be. And probably this is a really good way to do it. I mean, the AOS is a solid frame. He's got another one, the AOS Falcon 7, that has to be acknowledged, which is a 7-inch. This one stands out to me, Blunty, because it doesn't have the same sort of design elements that the 3.5, the 5, and the 5.5 do. It actually kind of looks like a whole different frame.
Yeah, there's some of the same stuff, like the front is different, like arms, but the back is the same. And yeah, it's interesting. It seems like it's kind of a compromise sort of frame, so that you can get kind of the best of all your worlds at that size.
Yeah, one of Chris's big things is that doing like triangle trusses makes resonance characteristics better. I'd be curious, I'm sure he has a video announcing this, I just haven't watched it yet. I'd be curious to know why he chose not to do triangle trusses on the front arms. Presumably he has a good reason. And he also has spoken about the problem with kind of cantilevered sections that create resonance. And now here we've got the camera kind of hanging off the front here rather than being stiffened by kind of a box design. But if anybody has analyzed the resonance characteristics, it's got to be him. So probably they're good.
Yeah, I think this is probably like I said, I think this is probably the best they could do with like what they were working with. I think also a big goal here was to get the GoPro down below the top plate, just as a design feature. So yeah, pretty neat little lineup of frames here we have from Chris Rosser.
Next up, let's take a look at this, the Terraplane frame from Shen Drones. And the Terraplane Shen Drones was the original inventor of the Cinewhoop. The Shen Drone Squirt was the very first Cinewhoop into commercial production, for sure. And now Andy Shen has extended that design up to basically, it's 85 millimeters. Is that 3.5? Is that 4 inches? Basically just going to a bigger prop.
Yeah, just kind of getting a little more beef, probably to carry a bigger camera. It looks like that's about 3.35 inches, so kind of in the middle there.
So just a little bit bigger prop. And I think that anybody who's tried to carry a GoPro 9 on a Cinewhoop is going to understand why this was desirable. Cinewhoops are moderately overweight on the best of days, but you add the weight of a GoPro 9 and a DJI Air unit, and it could just really push them over the edge. That extra little bit of prop disc can give the additional thrust and efficiency to do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think it's I'll just say I think it's interesting that after so long of pushing the like Shen drone squirt TPU duct design, they've chosen to go with like a hard shell prop here. Or prop guard. I'm not really sure why that would be. Maybe they have more information about it somewhere. But yeah, I think it's kind of odd because then for my confusion here is why wouldn't you just do that and make it way easier on everyone running the squirt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the theory behind the squirt ducts is that you use TPU, and Andy would cut down a 4-inch prop to make a 3-inch bullnose, and he would cut it down so it would dig into the TPU duct, and that meant it would interface with the TPU duct, and you would have that efficiency gain that you get from a proper duct. And everybody started making Cinewhoops with just kind of basically prop guards. There was like a millimeter or more of space between the prop and the duct, and you didn't get the efficiency gains, and they were basically prop guards. I wonder if Shen Drones has just said, all right, screw it. Nobody's doing it anyway, so let's just go to rigid prop guards.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. Definitely interesting to see, though. I definitely fought with a bunch of TPU prop guards on a squirt, so
yeah. Well, I did like that the TPU prop guards on the squirt, they were very durable. You could crash the crap out of them. The prop would kind of dig into them, but then it would kind of gouge away and you could keep flying. Whereas every Cinewhoop I've ever had with rigid prop guards, I felt like the durability was less than, or the flight performance was poor compared to like the squirt. But presumably Andy's got a good reason for doing it. The other question I have about this one, Blunty, is like I've flown a 3.5-inch Cinewhoop like the iFlight ProTech 335, and I thought it was a little bit big for indoor flying. I wonder if 3.3 inches is going to be okay. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be close, and it probably will just depend on like what the exact shot is and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll be interested to see feedback from these and see, what people's results are and what kind of shots they give them.
Yeah. Last interesting thing is this prop. They're using this 85 millimeter 6-blade prop, and people say these are much quieter than the regular props, but the durability has got to be worse. So you're not supposed to crash a Cinewhoop anyway. So that's that.
So we just talked about Cinewhoops. So let's move to cameras to put on the Cinewhoops. We'll take a look at some new cameras from iFlight, the iFlight GoCams.
Yeah, we've got the iFlight GoCam PM GR and the iFlight GoCam PM G3. $200 for the GR, $269 for the G3. What's the difference between them? Let's see.
Really just rolls off the tongue. PMGR.
Totally. Using the RunCam app. So apparently RunCam makes this. It's QR code scannable. So it's using the RunCam QR codes. It doesn't have in-app like Wi-Fi capability. It supports Insta360 studio stabilization. That's it. So it's writing gyro data to the, let's see, does the cheaper one do that? It says internal gyro logging, which opens doors for development on software video stabilization using the GyroFlow, the open source GyroFlow project. It has inbuilt EIS, but if it's RunCam EIS, it's not that good. But GyroFlow is very good. But this one,
yeah, if it can work, if it can work with GyroFlow, that means it's got, it's like writing the gyro data somewhere. So that's definitely positive.
Yeah, the more expensive one, it says they are based on, the more expensive one is basically an Insta360 one, SMO 4K or similar.
Yeah,
so this one
listed as flow state stuff too. Interesting.
So presumably the more expensive one doesn't work with GyroFlow. It only works with Insta360 Studio.
Yeah, if they're not like writing that gyro data somewhere, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Obviously, it's going to depend on image quality, and I think the image quality is going to differ significantly. It looks like the iFlight GoCam is basically a RunCam camera inside the GoCam GR, and the G3 is an Insta360 like a SMO 4K inside.
Oh, GR, maybe G Run Cam and G360. Maybe that's
I
what the
don't.
name.
Yeah, yeah. I think the image quality of the Insta360 is probably better. This is just an initial look. We haven't actually
Yeah.
looked at any of the reviews. I would want to check that out. I haven't been super impressed with RunCam's image quality. It has been acceptable at best. But the ability to use gyroflow is pretty cool. One thing we noticed, Blunty, while we were doing this is that the Banggood price for the same camera is way more, which usually isn't Banggood supposed to be cheaper? Isn't that like the whole point?
Yeah, it seems like lately there's been this trend of Banggood being quite a bit more expensive for quite a few different products. And that's, yeah, unfortunate. I'm not sure why that is, but definitely something we've been seeing.
Yeah, don't know why, but I don't know why you would order, if you're in the USA, why you would pay $310 for it, the exact same product, when you could order it from, Pyrodrone for $269. Yeah, ultimately, image quality is what's going to make or break these cameras. So we'd want to check out some reviews before we make that decision.
Yeah, with something like these, for sure, like it's iFlight, but we don't know about them. So I would definitely say check out the reviews before you order one of these.
Blunty, there's one more thing I think we got to ask before we move on from these cameras, and that is, you could buy a refurbished Hero 7 for like $200. Am I crazy?
That's about right. That seems about right. Somewhere in there.
Hero 7.
I mean, I guess I don't know about the current.
That's what I'm looking. I can get a Hero 7 Black, new, not even refurbished, for $249 from Amazon right now. That's about it. So $250. And if you can look around, I in the past, I know I've bought refurbished Hero 7s for about $200, although I can't find that right now. I don't think there's any world in which I would pay $200 for this iFlight Go Cam when I could have a Hero 7. I would pay $250 for a Hero 7 before I buy this one, just as the image quality of a GoPro is just clearly going to be better.
Yeah, I could agree with that for sure. I think the weight is going to be the thing. So, right. So if you're not doing the naked mod to the Hero 7, I think we're going to come in quite a bit lower, but maybe not.
Oh, because these don't have an internal battery. Is that right? They're powered off of from your battery.
Well, they can be. Yeah, this one was that one's 37 grams or 52 with the battery. So what does the Hero 7 run?
I see. Yeah, they got the plug in the side, so they're made to run with or without the battery.
The Hero 7 looks like it's 116 grams.
Okay, that's going to be it. So if you're super concerned about weight, but maybe you don't want to go all the way to a naked camera, then this will get you down around 37 grams without a battery. Okay, I could see it. Well, speaking of naked cameras, there's a new naked camera on the block. It is the Hawkeye Firefly X Lite, and it is only $137, which is, you compare, GepRC was charging $400 for a naked Hero 8. So yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Naked SMO 4K, 200 something bucks, $137.
Yeah, looks like it's around the weight we were seeing on those previous cameras. This is 34 grams. And this is, I just want to mention, this is a Hawkeye, but I'm told this is not the same Hawkeye that sells other similar cameras in the market. This is a separate Hawkeye, and they're using the name. That's just something I've heard. But yeah, either way, this seems like an interesting intro. There's also like a 4K split cam that's been going around for a little while. I've seen some builds with. It's like also the Firefly, but that seems like a better sensor than that, and a better lens and such. So seems like an interesting little option. Some of the video I've seen seems decent, but I'd like to see more.
Yeah, I've seen some of the sample video. I would say that it probably would not be acceptable for like professionals shooting commercials and stuff, but they'd be using a GoPro anyway. The video quality looks acceptable for just normal people doing fun stuff. The gotcha with this camera, I think, has been whether you can use stabilization. If you're using a naked camera, you're probably doing Cinewhoop style stuff, and stabilization is expected. Does it have inbuilt stabilization? Does it work with, and if it does, is it any good? Or more importantly, does it work with like Real Steady Go or Gyroflow?
Gotcha. I know it does do, it definitely does have an internal gyro, and they do their own EIS, but I'm not sure if it's dumpable or like usable in another thing.
Yeah.
As always, with any of these gyroflow projects, you could always log the black box on your FC for that. But yeah, I don't know that there's an accessibility to the internal gyro in this camera.
Okay. So it has built-in stabilization that may or may not be any good. And if you want to jump through hoops, you can use your black box logs to do gyroflow stabilization if you really need to. That's a pretty cool project. It's really nice that they've done that. For a price of $129, or $137, it certainly is going to catch some eyes. Next up, let's take a look at some new flight controllers that have come out this month. And the first one I want to start with is the SP Racing H7RF. Blunty, you probably know that the SP Racing flight controllers are some of the most sophisticated and arguably best built in the hobby. Dominic Clifton literally hand makes them himself in his home. Like, he doesn't hand solder them. He has machines. So he QCs every one of them. They're very good and have a lot of capabilities. This one has a built-in ExpressLRS receiver.
Yeah, this is ExpressLRS over SPI that we were talking about earlier. So you avoid any of that UART latency. It does like direct interrupts on the MCU. And yeah, this is a super fancy, basically H7 flight controller. It's got a bunch of different options, bunch of different features. It has Pixel LSD, one of the great H7 features that we've been looking for.
Is that a
lot
full
of different things.
Graphical OSD?
Yeah, full graphical OSD.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, got SD card for black box logging. You can look at the capabilities, and you can even break it off and take it down to a 20 millimeter size if you're building like an ultralight or small rig. But of course, the big compelling feature is going to be that it's got the ExpressLRS receiver built in, and that is pretty exciting.
Yeah. One thing to mention about that break off. I've never seen a break off system like this one, where like it'll break off pads. Yeah, it's just kind of new for me, because normally when you do break-offs, they're like still trying to squeeze everything into that tiny little board, and you don't get any of the benefits of the larger size. But it seems like on this one, you're getting the benefit of larger size, or you can snap off and get the benefits of the smaller. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we can see right here that on the underside of the board, there are all these plugs, and then there are direct solder points if you prefer to solder. But then if you break it off and make it a 20 millimeter, you would just use the plugs. So yeah, pretty slick and pretty innovative design. The next one let's look at is this one, the Hobbywing XRotor convertible. This one also convertible between 30 and 20 millimeter. Got those break off tabs. It's an F7. It's a Hobbywing. It's a flight controller. Not a lot to say about it, but it is new this month.
$40 seems pretty good in this economy.
Oh yeah. Wow, no, you're right. That's the big selling point. $40. Then we've also got this one, the Foxeer F722 Mini. This is a 20 millimeter board, $50. Presumably compatible with the Foxeer Reaper ESC, which racers are telling me that's a damn good ESC. And then lastly, we've got this. Flywoo has a new, I think it's new, or it's at least new at Race Day Quads, because it showed up in their new parts list. It has a new, some new Goku flight controllers, including an F7 flight controller in a 16 millimeter size. Unfortunately, that one does it have the stacking pin headers? It looked like it did. Yeah. That one's got stacking pin headers. I don't know, Blunty. I hate those on the bigger boards. Are stacking pin headers okay on a 16 millimeter board?
In my experience, the only one I've used has had it, and it's been okay. But I mean, obviously, it's not like the ideal solution. Like soldered wires are going to typically hold up better than something like this, just because of the way we mount our flight controllers. But
yes, especially because it's got the soft mounting, so it's going to be able to vibrate separately from the ESC, and eventually those connections often become unreliable. So that's unfortunate. I would steer away from that if I had the choice. We got an F4 16 by 16 flight controller for $20. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, just to be fair, on that F7, you're trying to cram a bunch of stuff into that size of board, and I'm not sure there's much way to do it
Yeah.
Like every side of that board has pads all over it. If you like, so I'm not 100% sure how they would make it, because they tried to, like, they jammed a barrow in there. It has I2C. There's 7
It has a
UARTs because it's
barometer?
F7. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they did.
They crammed everything onto that. There's 8 meg flash. I mean, on a 16 by 16. Yeah. There's a lot of different things they really crammed in there. So I just do want to say that, like, I'm not sure you could have fit everything without pins. I don't know that it's possible.
All right, fair enough. We got here a 16 millimeter 35 amp ESC for $30 and a 20 amp ESC for $25. Looks pretty robust. And then we've got here the versatile F745 Pro, another one of these convertible 30 millimeter or 20 millimeter with breakoffs. Nice big pads here. They're doing the diatone thing where they don't label the pads, which always annoys me.
It can be frustrating, especially if you do revisions. Like if there's like a Pro V2 or a Pro V3, then of course there can be problems, because then you don't know, like, oh, which one did I get? I have to count pads and try to make sure, that sort of thing.
And oh my God, look at this one. This one is convertible. It's a VTX and it's convertible between 16 millimeter, 20 millimeter, or 25 millimeter toothpick format. So again, making it easy to mount no matter what 850 milliwatts on a toothpick. I like that.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. It says seems fully featured for the size, and yeah, lots of different hold choices. So,
all right.
All right, and moving into motors, we've discussed a little bit about Axis Flying before. We've checked out their motors, and now on Race Day Quads, you can buy what looks like pretty much their whole line of motors. So that is pretty cool. They seem like pretty solid. I've heard a lot of great reviews from these Axis motors, and now they're available in more places.
Yeah, Axis Flying, we've talked about that they came from some T-Motor employees who broke away and formed their own company. T-Motor, of course, has a great pedigree. Axis Flying still relatively new. I have to say, like 2306 motor for $27. That's a pretty big ask, especially for a new company, even though we know they came from T-Motor. I mean, I have to really bite my lip to pay $27 for a T-Motor F40 when there are so many really good motors out there for $20, $22. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. For sure. I think kind of depends on what class you're buying in. There's definitely a lot of different choices across a lot of different price points. And I think we're looking at a couple of other ones in those price points today. Like we've got like the XING-E, the 2207. So we could look at the XING-E. Those are only 22 right now. Those are a Unibell.
Yeah. This is their
nice
rainbow. Yeah. Reminds me of that. I think it was the Schizo motors maybe that had that rainbow effect, or maybe the Freybot motors. I don't remember. But I guess this is some kind of, I mean, is that titanium? You can heat titanium and make a rainbow effect. Like, surely it's not. Surely it's aluminum.
Yeah. It's like anodizing. Yeah, I think you can anodize aluminum as well.
But it's a beautiful effect. It's a beautiful Unibell design. And XING just make amazing, amazing motors. They have internal bushing to help protect the bearing. They're just very, very good quality motors. It's just a fact. And when this motor is $22, it's just hard to justify recommending almost anything else at the $27 price point. Like, how much better could a $27 motor be, given how good the XING-2 is? Well, I'm sure someone from Axis Flying would love to argue with me about that.
Well, I think, that also kind of brings to point then, XING seems to think even that the XING-2 is a premium motor, because they also have the XING-E, the XING-E Pro we're looking at, which is another Unibell solution at only $16.
Yeah. Now, the XING-E has existed before. It was a $14-ish motor. And I think the XING-E didn't have a Unibell and had a couple other little step downs in quality compared to XING motors. But this is the XING-E Pro, which is an upgraded XING-E, comes in at $16. It has a steel shaft instead of a titanium shaft. That's one place they saved money. It still has it has 6061 aluminum instead of 7075. So it's a softer aluminum. It's going to be less durable. But otherwise, it has many of the features that make XING motors desirable. I think, Blunty, that what this competes against is the EMAX Eco 2 line. How do you think it stacks up?
I'm not sure. I've heard a lot of great things about the Eco 2s. Guess we'll have to compare specs because I'm not 100% sure.
Now, I'm looking. The Eco 2 is not a Unibell.
Right.
So the durability may be a little worse. What alloy? I can't find anywhere that says which alloy of aluminum is used in the Eco 2. So I'm going to guess it's the 6061, the cheaper. Or they would say.
True. Fair enough.
I feel like this probably is maybe it's a better motor. I mean, the Unibell, the bushing design, $16.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested to see some reviews. We'll see, how they stack up, and people can beat them up. But it seems solid from the specs.
I think the big difference to me would be the 7075 aluminum is going to make the XING-E 2 motor way more durable. 6065 is pretty soft. What about, here's another XING-E 2 motor we'll get out of the way. This is a 1404 3000 kV motor, so that's going to be great for lightweight 4-inch builds or maybe some 3-inch builds. Just taking the whole XING design and shrinking it down. Unibell design, XING quality. If I was building like a 4-inch long-range cruiser, I'd definitely be looking this direction. And then here we've got the new Brother Hobby LA 2005 motor. 2005, great size for maybe a little heavier 4-inch or a 5-inch, a lightweight 5-inch freestyle. They're beautiful motors, and I think they have some titanium in them, using TC4 titanium. It is interesting that these have a standard 5mm shaft as opposed to the 2004 motors, which have for T-mount props. So these definitely are not going to be on your ultra lightweight builds. I will say the durability of the 2004 Brother Hobby motors leaves something to be desired, although they perform well. So I think if I was building a 5-inch lightweight, I might be thinking this direction. And then lastly, we've got some new motors from Camera Butter, which makes ND filters, but apparently now we've covered their frame in a previous review. And now we've got Camera Butter Halo 2406 motors. I guess these are for 5-inch props and presumably designed for smoothness.
Yeah, maybe, I guess 5 or 5.5, probably somewhere in there.
Yeah, maybe even 6-inch. I mean, that's a chunky motor. I will say, in a motor this size, in a motor 2406 in size, I would love to see 10mm bearings. I know for a 2306 or a 2207 motor, oftentimes the motor gets too big or heavy if you put a 10mm bearing in it. But it feels like you could have put a 10mm bearing in this and it would have made better durability and smoothness.
All right, so we went from motors to talking about props now. So let's look at the HQ prop, Juicy Prop J37. This is a new 4.9-inch prop from HQ. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Nice colors.
Yeah. Green. We've got these, a variety of colors here. It's probably called the Juicy Prop because Johnny FPV has a sponsored prop with Azure, and it's a 4.9-inch-ish prop. I guess the idea being that by going to a slightly smaller prop, you get better response time, you need less torque from the motor, and you get better handling at the expense of thrust.
Yeah. Is there like a juicy spang slider, I guess? Is that something like that?
Right. Personally, I'm not sure, in a world where motors are as torquey as they are, I'm not sure I see the advantage of going down to a 4.9. I flew Johnny's Azure props, and I thought they were a little underpowered. Sure, they were smoother, but with the right amount of tuning, I think with a 2207, 2306, or now we see people going as high as like 2506, like the FPV Cycle 5-inch motor, I think you got plenty of torque there to get a good tune out of a 5.1, or even a 5.2 5-inch prop. So I'm not sure I see the point of this.
Yeah, and the other big advantage I would want is like weight, and this don't seem that much lighter either. It's 3.4 grams versus a lot of the new props we're seeing are right around that pocket, like 3.4 to 3.6.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it is a thinner prop. It's presumably more responsive, but Obviously, we'd have to fly it before we had a final decision, but it feels like HQ is trying to jump on this bandwagon kind of after the ship has sailed, to mix a metaphor. So I'm not sure about this one.
After the quad is flown.
Right. There's another prop that's confusing me this month, Blunty, and that is the Gemfan Freestyle 4S and the Gemfan Freestyle 3S. And it's confusing me because is this the same prop as the F3 and the F4 that got recalled, or is it a different prop?
Yeah, this is the same prop. They just added the S to let you know they've been tested.
I see. So it's the same prop, but these are the ones that have been durability tested, and they didn't want there to be any confusion, so they made a new product name.
Yes, you know if you're buying the F3 or the F4 still, but those are the old prop with the issues, and if you buy the 3S or the 4S, yeah, you'll be good to go. So.
I mean, in theory, it's been recalled, so you shouldn't be able to buy it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to say this video is in editing right now, but I did durability test the new ones, and they were very durable. So it looks like Gemfan has solved the problems. They are good flying props, 5130 and 5136, depending on the amount of pitch you want and responsiveness and sort of the weight of your quad. Heavier quads are going to want the 4S. Lighter ones might want the 3S.
Yeah, the weight of these is pretty close to that 4.9 inch prop you saw from HQ. So
yeah. Well, I mean, there's only so much you can do to manipulate a prop's weight. You know, you take off 0.1 inch, I guess 0.2 inches. I guess it makes some difference. How much is it? Weight 3.5 grams.
Yeah. So the HQs were 3.4, the 3S are 3.5, and the 4S are 3.6. So.
Yeah, not that big of a difference. Lots of good colors too. Ooh, jade green, peach pink, mango yellow.
Right. Yeah, they actually took some polls on these colors on how to name them and what they should be. So I like a lot. A lot of these colors are pretty cool.
Nice. And we all know that matters. Totally does though. Gemfan's got another prop out, the Cinelifter 8040, which I only wanted to include because as you get up past about, let's say 7 inches, in the 8 to 10 inch, there are very, very few props to choose from. And a lot of those props are like airplane props. So they're not really optimized for the type, like an airplane prop is always going to be at mid or high RPM during flight. Whereas a quadcopter prop will have to make thrust at low RPM some of the time. So it's really nice to see new props being designed for these 8 to 10 inch and up Cinelifters. I had Gemfan's 13 inch props on my Beast class, and they were very, very good. So if you're looking for an 8 inch prop for a Cinelifter, check these out. And lastly, Gemfan is expanding their light up props from the Gemfan Moonlight, which lit up the hub. Now they've got the Starlight. Sounds like a Daft Punk song, which actually goes out along the prop. What do you think of that, Blunty?
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how it works, I guess, because seems like it would affect the durability by embedding something in one of the blades.
Well, it's not. I think it's not actually embedded in the blade because they sell
on the surface.
Yeah, so they sell this LED strip separately. You can buy it by itself, and it like sticks to the bottom of the blade.
I see. So is it flat then?
Yeah.
Like okay.
Yeah, it's flat. It sticks to the underside of the prop, and you know, I would be curious about balance. Like, surely it's got to throw the balance off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, presumably there's got to be a balance, and then also maybe airflow issues too, if there's like a little hump there from it or something.
Right. That underside of the prop is a very important part of the airfoil shape. So I would be very curious about how these fly. Of course, Gemfan's going to show them flying really well, but it does make a little bit, like, let's compare to the Moonlight. It does look better because the Moonlight props, they have a single LED in the hub, and then they have these printings or etchings on it to help reflect the light. And it looks pretty good under the right lighting conditions, but it doesn't look quite as good as having actual LEDs like on the prop. Anyway, check it out. See if it's going to be off balance or anything. But maybe something for people who are looking for light up props.
Yeah.
All right, we got just a couple more odds and ends to go through before we get to the giveaway. Do you fly Immersion RC Ghost at all, Blunty?
I do not. I do not have a Ghost system.
You're an XpressLRS guy, true and true, aren't you? You're 100% XpressLRS now?
Except for the like Crossfire stuff I have left over. I just haven't taken to sell it. But yes.
Somewhere Trappy is crying. Well, I fly some Ghost stuff. And this is the Immersion RC Tramp Ghost Hybrid Duo. The Ghost Hybrid is a combination video transmitter and Ghost receiver in one 20mm board. This one has diversity built in for the Ghost, so you get diversity. So that's kind of cool. Do you use Ummagawd?
Yes, I do use Ummagawd. I think most people, I would expect most people use Ummagawd. If they don't, I would recommend it.
Yeah, Ummagawd's a really good battery pad developed by Tommy Tibahia. And you might ask, well, I mean, come on, it's just a gel battery pad. How much technology could be in it? But it actually has a really good amount of grip, but not so much grip that, like, it's got enough grip that when it gets dusty, it still grips. It doesn't get all slippery, but not so much grip that it like rips your battery cover off. But some people think it's too expensive, so Flywoo has basically cloned it. I used the C word. So now Flywoo, I would encourage people to support Tommy, but how much is the price difference? Ummagawd, let's see. Ummagawd is $5 for a single sheet.
Single sheet, typically, though, you can, if you wanted to, you could get 2 quads out of, or like 1.5, or like,
easily.
Yeah,
easily. I mean, I think I could get 3 or 4. I'll usually just cut a strip.
Yeah,
because you don't need it to be the whole length of the battery. So I'll easily get 3 or 4 quads out of a single sheet. Flywoo is giving it to you. It's hard to tell because of the size. 100 by 50 millimeters. This is the Flywoo is
like
cheaper.
Like a 3-pack of 4x2s.
Yeah. Worth saying that Race Day Quads also made an attempt at this. The sticky polyurethane, that's another one that's just basically a rip-off of Ummagawd. But all right. Anyway. It doesn't have that Umma logo. How about this, Tom? What do you think of this?
This is interesting. I have not seen this.
Yeah, look at that. You got a Radio Master. You want your gimbals to light up. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, that's pretty slick.
It's just
if you want this to go with your iFlight backpack and your GemFan Starlight props.
Yeah. Yeah, you just plug it inside the radio. It takes its power and installs on there. $15. You get some LEDs there. This one I think is going to be a little controversial. This is the X-Heli FPV ST micro SD card holder.
This is useless.
Why do you say it's useless?
Because why do I need a box with foam for SD cards? Like, I don't know. This seems way overkill. Like, I use one of those little 3D printed things you just like stamp everything in, or like the wallet holders.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, this thing. And you can see from my Amazon history, purchased 2 times. This is what I use. You can 3D. There are 3D printed versions you can make if you want to. This is what I use though. It's $5. Holds your SD cards. Eventually, the plastic breaks.
$5 for 2 of them.
Yeah. When I saw this, I was like, the foam is going to, number one, the foam's going to wear out. Okay, that's probably not. The other thought that I had is I'm going to open this up and all my cards are going to just fall out all over the floor.
Yeah, and it has to be big enough to be openable. I'm not seeing the
look how thick it is.
Applicability. Yeah, 1/2 inch thick. So not
but
crazy, but more than I would want.
So we're going to put this down in the video, and it's got I keep mine on a key ring. I have one for SD cards with footage on them that I need to offload, so I don't accidentally like delete it or format it. I have one for empty SD cards. I put them on a key ring. I keep it in my backpack. We'll put a link to this down in the video description. This, we'll put a link to that too, just in case. You never know. Next up in our odds and ends category, we've got some new foam padding for the DJI FPV goggles. This is actually, I think deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. The foam padding that comes with the DJI goggles has some light leak and fit problems. I've been using this for a couple weeks now. The only downside is that this is so thick that if I put it on over my glasses, it kind of grabs my glasses. So I've had to use internal diopters. But if you don't use glasses or you have internal diopters, this is 1,000% worth $12 if you don't like the FPV or DJI goggles. Lastly, we got these. These are some thumb grippies. They go on your controller sticks and just to help get, if you're a thumber instead of a pincher, give you a little bit more grip. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they seem like a cool product. I've heard a few people tell me they were neat to use, so I wanted to make sure they got on the list.
Yeah, that's the downside of thumbing, is that it can like slip, or as you're flying, it can kind of get off center, and it's going to give you a lot more control and precision. Okay, Blunty, that brings us to the end of the video where we give away one of these products to some lucky winners. And I have stupidly been deleting my bookmarks as I go. So which of these do you think we should give away? Let's think about it.
Well, you did send me all of them just in case you need them. But...
That's true. Thankfully, I sent them to you. Usually I try to give away, like I pick something that costs about $200 and give away 3 or 4 of them. But we're just going to do one this time. The 2FIDDY is a great product. Someone will be very, very lucky to own it. One of the only Nebula Nanos in existence, or Nebula Pros in existence. We're going to give away one Ummagawd 2FIDDY BNF. All right, I just bought it, so we're guaranteed to have a prize to give away. We're going to give away one of these Ummagawd 2FIDDYs. To enter, there are instructions down below in the video description. You got to go down there. The instructions and the cutoff date for entry, which will usually be about 3 days after whenever you're seeing this. There's a Google form where you go and you leave your email address to enter. But full instructions are down below. That's going to do it, Blunty. Thank you so much for coming out to help round up these new products this month.
Of course, always happy to be here. I appreciate you inviting.
Yeah, and we will be here next month as well. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you can find out about all the new products and all the other videos that I'm making. That's going to do it for this month, though. Thanks so much for watching, and happy flying. Do you see this baby? Isn't he cute? Hit the subscribe button. Join my Patreon. Use my affiliate links. Or just keep watching videos. That's better than nothing. Goku Gaga, subscribe to my daddy.